Welcome back to Basic Bananas Radio, where we share tried and tested ways to grow your brand and get more customers. Everything from the latest in marketing and branding, right through to growing your team and creating an irresistible culture.
Welcome back to BB Radio. My name is Kevin Bees, and for many years I've been a guest on the show, but today I get the privilege of being the host, and I'm hosting a gentleman called Jay Pottenger. He is the general manager and speaker at EQ Minds. Now, if you'd like to have some tips for high performance in business, or you'd like to know how to boost your productivity, or maybe you'd like less stress and and understand how to be less busy, then you're in for a treat with today's episode, because Jay shares all of these things. Now, Jay is an ex-athlete and a corporate leader, and he's worked at companies such as Westpac and Deutsche Bank. He has a postgraduate in mental health and neuroscience, and he's a speaker and coach with brands including IAG, Woolworths, and eBay. And he teaches teams simple and actionable insights on how to achieve greater success and satisfaction. And you're going to hear all of those things in today's episode. So let's get going. So Jay, welcome to the episode today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here having a conversation with you.
Hey, it's so great. Now, I know you do such amazing things in the areas of high performance, workplace well-being and productivity. Tell us a little bit about, why do most people spend their day reacting to others' needs or chasing, shiny or low-hanging fruit?
Yeah, it's a good question to start with. And I think, if you love that the movie that was back in the day, The Shawshank Redemption, they talked about, we can get busy living or we can get busy dying. And I think people just get busy being busy. And it's really easy to say that they're busy all the time and they've got lots going on. And that actually becomes their identity, that they're always busy. But if we actually pause for a moment, take a second, and take some time to actually plan or actually to think about what's going on in our lives, we can be much more intentional about what we're doing throughout the day, and taking that little moment at the start of the day or the end of the day to sort of reflect and have a look at what's going on and where do you actually want to put your attention so that you're working on the right things rather than just being busy all the time.
It's a funny thing when I hear someone say they're busy. It kind of sometimes tells me that actually this thing just isn't that important to them. They got something else they'd rather be doing.
Oh, absolutely. And we've all got that friend that's been busy for the last 20 years. Literally every time you speak to them, they're so busy being busy. But it's like, well, if you've been busy for 20 years, when are you actually going to take a moment to sort of work on the things that's really important to you so that you're not that busy and all these other little things? And a lot of that comes back to spending a lot of time being reactive rather than being proactive throughout the day. It's really easy to check emails first thing in the morning and start working on everyone else's priorities rather than actually working on the things that are important to you and your success.
You make a really important point, and you work with a lot of business owners and business leaders. How should we be structuring our day, not only to be more productive, but also to have that well-being? Because I appreciate if you are, like the example you use, busy for 20 plus years, you're going to be tired, you're going to burn out. So how do we balance actually getting more done, but also really taking care of our well-being?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are talking about this sustained momentum at the moment. It seems to be a bit of a theme this year around how do we sustain the momentum when we've got so much going on and there's so much information coming from so many different channels, especially if you're a leader, if you're leading, a small business or a large business. It's really hard because you're sort of getting deflected in all different things, and often you don't even have time to do your job because you're so worried about doing other people's jobs. So the way we take care of ourselves so that we can sustain that momentum over a long term is super important. And I really think that comes back to the basics, the things that all of us know we need to be doing and a lot of us aren't doing, myself included at certain times. That's making sure that we're getting great sleep, that having a regular sleep schedule throughout the day so that, we're always going to bed at the same time so we can wake up refreshed, making sure that we're eating the right thing, fueling our car with the right types of things. Lots of people, they want to drive around a Ferrari, but we're feeding our car like we're a Datsun or something like that. It's about really taking care of that nutritional piece. And then managing our stress as well, right? It's so important that we're managing our stress. We have these high octane days. When do we get time to actually down regulate, to detach from work, to detach from all of these things that are going on, to make sure that, we do have some time to relax and psychologically detach so that we can feel better and that we can sustain that momentum over a very, very long period of time, which is, what's needed in most businesses these days.
Tell us about stress because it's a very common place for us in our society now. We would kind of expect to have stress. Like, is a certain amount of stress good to help performance, or does stress completely hold us back?
No, it's a great question. I think stress has probably got a pretty a bad name in today's modern world. Everyone thinks, "Oh, I'm so stressed all the time," but we actually need some stress in our life. Some stress shows that we actually care, that we're moving in the right direction, that we're motivated, that we're doing hard things, that we're challenging ourselves to move forward, that we're actually growing. So if you don't have any stress in your life, you're probably not giving life a red hot crack, is what I like to say. Um, if you've ever seen, I don't know if you've ever seen Yerkes Dobson law, it talks about there is actually an optimal level of stress because it shows that we're moving in the right direction, we're pushing ourselves. But of course, we do need to be careful because if we do push for too hard or too long or too heavy on the accelerator, you can go into that, chronic state of stress and sort of breakdown and burnout. That's when that occurs. But yes, I think some stress in our life is so very important to make sure that, we're moving, that we're going forward, that we're growing.
Green and growing or ripe and rotting. And you mentioned Yerkes Dobson's law there. I think I remember, and I don't know if I got the statistic right. I may have made this one up. I think they said in there that if you had like a 4% increment, so you're challenging yourself to do 4% better than before. Is that right? Like an incremental improvements as opposed to like trying to take on like a 10x improvement?
I think that's from a learning perspective that we're not going too far from a learning perspective because then if you're pushing too hard or too far outside, it sort of becomes a little bit unachievable and you're more likely to give up and not be able to do it. Whereas if you just have these incremental gains, it means you can continue to learn. It's still sort of, comfortable or a little bit uncomfortable, but not crazy uncomfortable, and that can help you grow and get better in things. So I think that's where that might be coming from.
And that would kind of make sense. I know you have an athletic background, as I mentioned in the bio. I guess if you go into the gym and a 4% increase on the weight that you're lifting is massive improvement if you can do it every time. But you're probably not going to go in and try to 10x the weight you're lifting. You're just probably going to end up getting squashed, and doing yourself damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's in the weight room or whether it's going out doing some form of athletic or whether it's in the office as well. If you're going to go too hard, you'll probably have some form of a breakdown because you're pushing yourself too hard, and your body and your brain is not used to that, and that's where you can probably come unstuck a little bit quickly.
Yeah, maybe help us think about this because there's people in the marketplace who tell us, hey, you're not thinking big enough. You need to challenge yourself more. You need to 10x what you're doing. Could that be advantageous to us, or is that kind of thinking maybe detrimental?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, and I think it's probably a little bit of both, to be honest. We don't want to, aim too low because, we might actually hit that too easily, and therefore we're not pushing ourselves. And lots of people say, aim for the stars, you might hit one, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. But if you are going to aim for the stars, if you're going to have something that's really huge, well, you can't just go out and do it straight away. You need to break that down into little components throughout your day to say, okay, if I want to run a marathon, I'm not just going to go outside. I haven't run in 10 years and try and run a marathon, right? You're going to injure yourself. Likewise, if you've got this big goal, how can you actually break it down? Okay, I'm going to go and today I'm going to run 1 kilometer. Tomorrow it might be 2 kilometers and work on it up to, that bigger type of goal. And I think that sort of works in this situation as well. Don't aim too low because that could be the worst thing that we're doing. And lots of people are aiming very low or maybe not even aiming at all because they don't have those goals and those dreams. But if you are going to go big with intentional purpose and really map out how you think you're going to be able to get there. Um, yeah, that's what I'm thinking it might work when it comes to that. So a little bit of both.
Yeah, I love it. Good way to bring, the two perspectives. So yeah, dream big, see that bigger picture, the bigger vision. Because if you never have that vision, you definitely not gonna take steps towards it. But don't try and do it all at once. Eat that elephant, what do you call it? One bite at a time. So find what's the chunk or the small thing you can start. And as you say, if you're aiming for a marathon, start with a 1K walk, 1K run. Build yourself up. Don't try and go out there and do your 42K all in one go. I think it's really awesome. Now, given your experience as an athlete and a corporate leader, and now as a consultant, as speaker to small businesses, and that's probably shaped your understanding of high performance. Like, what are maybe some universal lessons that you've found apply across like all different environments?
Yeah, looking right back to when I was a little kid, starting off with my athletic dreams, and your parents are pushing you into the different sports, whether it's an individual sport or a team sport. And I know this very closely at the moment because my daughter's just started playing basketball, which is obviously makes us very proud parents, given my background. And it's interesting, right? The reason she's playing sport, or that we're wanting her to play sport on her own accord, don't want to push her too much at this point in time, is not only about learning that sport, being healthy, promoting her well-being, but it's all the amazing skills that she's learning around that as well. Whether it's as simple as learning how to be a good teammate, working in groups with other people, right down to the individual stuff like do they have discipline? Do they know how to have goals? Do they know how to move in the right direction? Do they know how to face setbacks to be resilient? And I'll share a little story with you. The other day, I took her along to a training session. It was on the weekend, and we arrived just before the training session was supposed to start. So, warming up, getting ready. And I'm looking around thinking, where is everyone? The session starts in 1 minute, and, the only other person that's here is the coach. And the time comes, the time goes, and people start dawdling in when the session's already supposed to have started. And I'm looking around thinking, what is going on here? And speak to the coach. The coach says, oh, yeah, yeah, the parents are always late when it comes to this. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? These are the lessons that we're teaching our children straight away, because who do they look up to the most? Their parents, right? And if their parents are thinking it's okay to show them that we don't have to be disciplined, we don't have to be on time, well, what does that then lead from a longer term perspective when, later down the track, they go to their first job interview and they rock up 5 minutes late? Well, they're never going to get that job. Or, they met their dream girl or their dream boy and they go out on a date and they're 10 minutes late. And that person already, well, they're well behind the eight ball when it comes to that. So these little things, these little challenges, the little, structures that we're setting our children up with make a huge difference into the type of person that they become. And all of these things are very applicable when it comes to the business world. And so it's really interesting now, having time to have gone through a fair bit of the journey myself to reflect back and think, oh, okay, so all of these little things that we do along the journey really do matter into becoming the people that we actually do become.
And as a leader, I guess is so important not just to say something, but to role model it. If you expect your team to be showing up, a minute or two early so the meeting can start on time, you probably need to be doing the same yourself, right?
Oh, 100%. And that's with everything, right? As leaders, and it doesn't matter if you're a leader in the corporate sense or you're a leader in your household or you're a leader as a parent, all of that stuff matters. It's so funny, one of the most common things I get asked is, oh, my kids are always on the phone. How do I make sure that my kids are not on the phone so much? And as they talk to me, they've got a phone in their hand and they've spent the previous 10 minutes on their phone scrolling before they've spoken to me. And it's like, well, they're just modeling the behavior that we're doing, right? And we're all, we all do this at specific times. I know I'm at home on the phone in front of my daughter, and so I'm not role modeling the right behavior. But how do we, make these little changes so that we can be positive, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's in the home place as well?
Yeah, it's so true. I guess you got to lead, and then people will follow, do things the way you want. And I've caught myself with my children in this situation as well. I know they'll ask me to do something, and I'll be here doing work, and I want to get this thing done before I do it. Oh yeah, just give me a few minutes, give me a few minutes. And now I ask them to do something, and it's like, oh yeah, yeah, just give me a few minutes, and it bugs me, but it's like, I've just been role modeling that. That's exactly what I've been doing. So it's yeah, it's and I guess they're like sponges. I guess if anyone listening has kids under the age of 7, they're just modeling everything you do right now. So yeah, if you want them to behave the same way as you, then keep going. That's awesome. And now, Jay, your business is called EQ Minds. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration, behind the idea of EQ Minds. Like, what does it mean to have EQ? And as a small to medium-sized business owner, how can we be leveraging this in our business?
Yeah, well, I think EQ is probably getting more and more important as we certainly see the rise of AI across businesses. And how do we stand out as people? How do our businesses stand out? EQ is becoming so important when so many of the different things that people used to do can be automated. And so EQ Minds really came out. I got to be honest, it came from my wife who started the business over 10 years ago after she had some challenges with her mental health with postnatal depression. And from that, she sort of decided that she didn't want anyone else to go through what she went through. And so she set about building this little company, which is all about improving people's mental health using primarily mindfulness, but since then, psychology as well. And so I joined on that journey about 5 years later. I came from banking and finance, had my own challenges with mental health. I had a really bad back injury about 10 years ago, and I ended up spending some considerable time at Neuroscience Australia, where they sort of worked on improving my pain pathways or rewiring those pain pathways. And from that, I learned all about the amazing power of our brains and neuroscience. And because of that, I went back and studied neuroscience, and it really is incredible being able to, come out of the corporate world and now consulting in the corporate world, and, just how powerful our brains are in terms of, these automatic habits that we have every single day, and the decisions that we make each day, and how do we interact with each other as well. And so I'm really fortunate now I get to speak to these amazing companies, amazing people about how can we actually, improve our brains so that we can improve our performance and our well-being as well.
On that note of well-being, I know I've seen some of your stuff. You describe workplace well-being as a profit multiplier. So I guess traditionally thinking, well, workplace well-being, if you're spending more money on your team to look after them, well, how can that be profit multiplier? Surely that's a cost to the business. So how does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's been loads of studies done around this, around when you actually invest in your people, that you multiply the returns by, over 200% for every dollar invested. There's been some great research in that space. And it's really all about making sure that you're not only taking care of your people, but you're optimizing your people as well. You would probably know yourself that if you're showing up to work and you're tired, you're not feeling good, maybe you're stressed, you have no chance of being at your best. And this is probably something that we can learn a lot from, the athletic fields. You look at athletes and they're always spending so much time working on their bodies and their brains and making sure that they're showing up to work at their very best. And then it comes to, small business or the corporate world, and people treat their body like an amusement park, and then they rock up the next day and they're like, oh, I actually don't feel very good and I'm not performing very good. I'm really tired. I'm pretty not motivated. That's a surefire way to not have a very sustainable business or a very sustainable career. And so I think when we invest in ourselves, the downstream effect is such a positive thing, not only for the way we're performing, but the way we're interacting with other people, the way we're managing stress, the way that we are far more resilient when our brains and body are in their best peak performance. We're going to be so much better when it comes to all those things, and we certainly get this, profit multiplier down the track.
So if you are looking at your numbers and your profit isn't where it would ideally like to be, then I guess the question is, well, what energy can we be putting into your own wellness, your own performance, and the same of the team? Now, you mentioned a few things already, Jay. You've said that, look, we need to be fueling our Ferrari with the right fuel. So like, do we have the right diet that can allow us to stay sustained and concentrated? Now, I get this. I realized I had a lot of sugar in my diet, a lot of caffeine in my diet, and I reduced or cut it out completely. And I found my energy through the day and my mood's completely different. So having the right fuel on board and having the right sleep I know it could be so easy for us to, stay up late, do a little bit more work or do that extra, watch that extra movie, and then the next day retire. So besides diet then and sleep hygiene, what else can we do to really be like, I guess, good athletes in our business?
Yeah, well, of course, remiss of me not to talk about movement as well and exercise. When we move, when we exercise, it doesn't really matter what type we're doing. There's a whole different spectrum of things that are going on with our bodies and our brains and our hormones. We produce a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and that makes us feel good. So whenever you're stressed, whenever you're in a bad mood, just by moving, you're producing more of this protein that's going to help you feel better. And so exercise has just been shown, across so many different spectrums to improve the way we feel. It helps us sleep better. Probably means we're going to make better nutritional choices as well. So moving the body is so very important. And I touched on before, we do need to be able to manage our stress as well. So however you go about doing that, and there's a plethora of different ways, whether using mindfulness, whether using meditation, whether using things just to relax and down regulate the system, having an ability to manage your stress is so very important to, fueling that Ferrari in a great way as well.
Have you got like a technique that you could share with us now that would probably help us if we're listening to this call and we're stressed, we're bouncing from one thing to the next thing? Is there something we can do right now to help bring ourselves to being back centered, present?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll share with you a really quick deep breathing exercise. It's called the 4-5 method, and it's all about just down regulating the system. And it's super easy. And the reason it's so very powerful is, to my knowledge, the fastest known way that we have to reduce stress. It's the fastest known way to reduce our heart rate. Even better, it's free and it is super easy and super quick to do. You can do it at any space. All you need to do is just find yourself a moment. If you can just duck around the corner or into a spare meeting room, you just shut down the eyes. You just breathe in for 4 through the nose. And we want to breathe through the nose because that's going to improve the effectiveness of this as we breathe deep into the belly. So in for 4 and out for 5. In for 4 and out for 5. In for 4 and out for 5. So whenever you feel yourself a little bit heightened, a little bit stressed, maybe it's because you've just got an email from your boss and it's triggered you, or maybe it's from a client, or maybe you've just got off the phone, it's not gone the way you expected, just find yourself a little bit of space, close down those eyes, and it can really help you down regulate the system, activate that parasympathetic nervous system, which is going to help you calm down, bring your emotions back into check, and make you go on to that next interaction in a much more positive frame of mind. And it really is such an important skill because, at the end of the day, our emotions are contagious. And so, if you're stressed, you like to make sure that everyone around you is stressed as well. We all know that, you get that phone call from a friend that says, "Oh, I've had the worst day." And you think, "Oh, this is going to be a fantastic 5 minutes of my life." I'm going to catch all of that stress. I'm going to feel bad as well. So just finding a little bit of space to down regulate before you go into that next interaction can be so very positive for your mindset, but also for those people around you as well, so that they're not picking up that stress.
I love it. And I do feel more centered and chilled after doing that. And we iterated that 3 times. Would you do it 3 times? Would you do it more?
I'd probably do it for about, anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. If you've got
Yeah.
longer, even better. But, 30 seconds is probably going to do some benefits as well.
Great. And by the sounds of it, if you've got people around you who are stressed frequently, team members, friends, family, teach them the 4-5 method. Ask them to do the 4-5 method before they call you. It may change the whole conversation.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, stress is contagious, burnout's contagious as well. There was a fascinating study done out of Canada on teachers, and they took a group of burnt out teachers, and then they took saliva swabs of the students to measure their cortisol levels. And what they actually found is that when the teachers were burnt out, the students actually caught that stress as well. So their cortisol levels increased from the students. So it's really important. And this is, especially if you're a leader, again, whether it's in the business or whether it's at home, you're going to pass that energy on to other people. So you need to be really mindful about what that's doing to those people around you.
You remind me of something I read once about mirror neurons. And given you're an expert in the neurospace, yeah, you're nodding. So maybe tell us about that and about how powerful mirror neurons are.
Yeah, so mirror neurons are one of the actions that is actually happening when it comes to these emotions, being contagious in a negative way or a positive way. So you'll notice that whenever you're speaking to someone, you pick up their body language. And so we have these mirror neurons that are actually reflecting what they're seeing or what they're feeling or the energy that they're catching. And that's one of the mechanisms that's actually, part of this emotional contagion.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So you can go and be in and around a group of people, and I guess maybe you will feel the energy. I know I've been at events, and it's at the beginning of the event, so everyone feels nervous, and you walk in and you feel nervous. And you're like, well, why is this? And you actually realize you're probably picking up from the people around you. So, and this way, it's probably important to really one, manage your own emotional state, but two, manage who you're around, what you're watching. I was discussing this with someone recently, an expert also in subconscious and the thinking. And a lot of people, you talk about good sleep hygiene, but of course, some people spend their time watching scary movies right before they go to sleep, and watching, I know, good Narcos, Pablo Escobar, people being shot up and killed. How's that going to help with your performance?
No, absolutely. I mean, especially if you're going to try and go to sleep, that's going to be really, you not only want to get off the screens, but you obviously want to regulate what you're taking in as well. Part of that could actually be the reticular activating system. You're sort of heightening that, and it starts looking for those things that you've been feeding it. And so if you're feeding it lots of scary movies or stress by watching the news, then your brain starts looking for that. Whereas if you surround yourself with positivity, maybe you practice gratitude, maybe you're around really, happy people, then your brain's going to start looking for that happiness and that positivity.
So important. I was reading recently with my daughter the book The Wizard of Oz, and it's interesting because in The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy gets to the Emerald Kingdom. And it's interesting, before they can go into the Emerald Kingdom, they have to put on these glasses. And of course, these glasses have green lenses in them. So, of course, when they go into Emerald Kingdom, everything looks like it's an emerald, looks like it's green. But it's only because they have these glasses on. Of course, if they take those glasses off, they'll see something different. And I think your point is very real there. From like a reticular activation system point of view, we're going to find what we look for. If we're expecting the world to be bad and people to be bad, we're going to find that. If we are looking for, positivity, we expect that, we'll find that. So there's something really powerful in that, and your mind's going to seek those things out. So, Jay, I love that. Now, I know I could keep talking to you all day on this because you're an expert in this area. You have so much to share, but I've got to get you off to your next meeting very soon. So I wonder if there's anything else super important for us to consider that would really help us in maximizing the performance of ourselves or our business.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, we spoke about mindfulness earlier around the intentional use of our attention. And so I guess I have a question for your listeners is, are you being intentional in how you are spending your day? It is really easy to be busy. It's really easy to be reactive to, those emails or all the different notifications, to get the dopamine pings that are going off all day, every day. But are you spending the time actually on the things that are going to move the dial for your business and your personal life? And that comes down to just putting some simple structures in place around, turning off your notifications, making sure that you're focusing on the things that are most important, your most important tasks during the day, blocking out time in your calendar so that you can actually spend time on the things that are important to you rather than the things that are important to other people. And that simple shift can have a dramatic impact on the output that you have, both at a professional level and a personal level as well.
So on the money. And just to make that real for you, then one way that you can be intentional at the start of your day is ask, hey, well, what are the three most important priorities I have today? Or if you want to be really intentional, if I could only get one thing covered off today, that was the most important, what would that one thing be? It becomes so powerful because if you put your energy and your focus into that, and then you ask, once that one's done, hey, what's the next one thing? you're going to find yourself so focused, moving so much further forwards, faster. One additional thing on that, since we're talking about productivity, you probably all heard of the idea of the Pomodoro technique. Give yourself a 20-minute or 25-minute timer and stay focused. No other distractions. Just focus on that one task in that time and go as fast as you can to get as much as you can done. You're probably all nodding, oh, I've heard of that, but are you doing it? Are you using it? If not, I encourage you to try it this week. Get very clear on what's the one thing you want and give yourself a bit of a Pomodoro sprint on that, and they'll really help with your performance. Jay, you shared so much value and so much wisdom today. I'm so grateful. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me along. It's been a pleasure, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy diary as well.
Oh, it's amazing. No, I'm not busy. I'm I'm very intentional about my day.
You're
Good.
intentional. Excellent.
I wish I was.
Thanks.
I wish that was completely true. Wherever you're listening, check out the show notes. There is a link back to eqminds.com, and then additionally other places you can connect with Jay on LinkedIn and Instagram. So Jay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me along. Appreciate it.
To get more from Basic Bananas and to learn new ways to grow your business with clever marketing, visit basicbananas.com.